The morning felt different. Instead of drills or panels, Harris carried something heavier than any tool. He dropped it onto the bench with a thud that echoed through the shop. Thick blue book, its cover stamped with 3 letters, NE. We leaned closer. Kevin squinted. Kevin, what is that? A dictionary? Harris smiled faintly. Harris, in a way, this is the National Electrical Code. Every wire you pull, every breaker you size, every panel you install, this book decides whether you pass or fail. Maria raised her brows. Maria, so it's like the law, Harris. Exactly. The code is law. It is not suggestion. It is not advice. It is the standard. Inspectors use it. Contractors must obey it. You break the code and you pay fines. You break it badly enough and you lose your license. The foreman stepped in, his voice carrying weight. Foreman, I've seen men fired because they thought inspectors were negotiable. They are not. Inspectors are authority. Their job is enforcement. They are not your enemy, but they will not overlook your mistakes. Harris opened the book and flipped through pages like scripture. Harris, let's start with the basics. Code, standard, regulation, compliance. These words matter. Compliance means following the rule. Violation means you broke it. Violation brings fines, delays, sometimes disaster. He pointed to me. Harris apprentice, what does clearance mean? I remembered yesterday's lesson about space around panels, John. Working space distance, safe area required to access equipment. Harris, correct? The code requires 36 inches in front of panels. Less than that, and you fail instantly. He moved to the vocabulary list he had written on the board. Inspector, permit, bonding, grounding, continuous load, label, marking, identification. The words looked ordinary, but in Harris's voice, they sounded like weapons. Maria whispered. Maria, it feels like we're soldiers learning the rules of war. Harris overheard and nodded. Harris, exactly. The NEC is not bureaucracy, it is survival. It is the handbook that keeps electricity from killing. The foreman gave a story. Foreman. Years ago, a contractor skipped permits, arguing the job was small. The inspector shut him down, fined him, and blacklisted his company. He thought he was saving time. Instead, he lost his reputation. Never think you are above the code. Kevin frowned, arms crossed. Kevin, but isn't the code complicated? Thousands of pages? How are we supposed to memorize it? Harris, you don't memorize every page. You learn to navigate. You know the articles and sections, you know where to find answers, and you never argue with facts. He handed me the book. Its weight felt enormous, more than paper. I flipped to an article about branch circuits. The language was precise, almost cold. Yet behind every line I saw Harris's meaning. Each number, each clearance, each percentage was written in blood, learned from accidents and fires. Maria leaned over my shoulder. Maria, look at this. Continuous loads must be calculated at 125%. That's why breaker sizing matters, Harris. Good. The code is not there to slow you down. It is there to keep wires from overheating, panels from burning, families from losing homes. The foreman gestured toward the wall. Foreman, tomorrow you'll face a mock inspection. The panel in the lab is rigged with violations. Too little clearance, undersized breaker, missing GFCI low conduit. You will find them, or fail like the contractor who lost his license. Harris closed the book with finality. Harris, remember these words. Code, compliance, inspector, violation, safety. Write them in your notebook. Etch them into your mind, because once you step onto a real site, the inspector will not care if you forgot. That night, I stayed late. The others went home, but I sat under the shop light with the blue book in front of me. At first, the words blurred, heavy and endless. But then I saw them differently. Not as rules to memorize, but as a map of hidden dangers. A map that could keep me alive if I learned to read it. For the first time, the NEC did not look boring. It looked like a survival manual. A book of law, written not in ink, but in lives saved. The shop felt heavier that morning, as if the air itself knew judgment was coming. Yesterday, Harris had dropped the blue book of law, the NEC, onto our bench. Today, the foreman stood waiting beside a mock service panel. His clipboard looked like a judge's gavel. Inspection day, Harris said simply. My stomach nodded. We had face breakers, splices, even arc faults. But today was different. Today wasn't just about doing the work. It was about proving the work. The foreman gestured sharply. The inspector does not care about your excuses. He cares about compliance. You have 1 hour. Find the violations. Fix them. If this were a real site, failing would mean delays, fines, and a ruined reputation. The apprentices exchanged nervous glances. Maria's eyes were steady. Kevin tried to grin, but his hands fidgeted with his meter. I swallowed hard. We approached the panel. At first glance it looked fine, breakers lined in rows, wires neatly dressed. But Harris had warned us it was a trap. Somewhere inside were mistakes, violations hidden like landmines. Maria spotted the first one. Clearance, she whispered. The panel was mounted too close to a storage shelf, barely 2 feet in front. Harris nodded. The code requires 36 inches of working space. Less than that, and you fail instantly. Inspectors don't bend on clearance. Safety first, always. We dragged the shelf back, restoring the space. My heart pounded. 1 violation down. How many left? Kevin leaned into the breakers. This one says 40 amps. The wire looks like number 12. Maria's eyes widened. 12 gauge is only good for 20 amps. The foreman's voice boomed. Violation. Oversized breaker on undersized wire. This is fire waiting to happen. Correct it. I stripped back the conductor, confirmed the gauge, and swapped in a 20 MP breaker. Sweat dripped down my neck. The foreman watched every move, his eyes sharp as knives. Next came the kitchen circuit mock-up. Outlets near a sink, but no sign of GFCI protection. Maria pressed the test button on her non-contact tester. Voltage steady, but no trip. Missing GFCI, she said. Harris's voice cut in. The code demands GFCI in kitchens, bathrooms, outdoors, basements. Moisture and electricity are mortal enemies. Without GFCI, even 5 milliamps can kill. Kevin hurried to replace the receptacle with a GFCI. His hand shook, but he managed it. We pressed the test button. Click. Power gone. Reset. Power back. Compliant. The foreman moved us forward, relentless. Next violation. I scanned the circuits. 1 breaker fed fluorescent lights, calculated as a continuous load. But the breaker size matched the load exactly. No margin. I remembered the words Maria had whispered yesterday. Continuous load at 125%. Harris, I said, voice steady now. This breaker is undersized. For continuous load, code requires 25% extra. Harris's eyes flashed with pride. Correct. Continuous load at 16 amps must be protected by a 20 amp breaker, not 15. NEC is about foresight, not shortcuts. We replaced it. Another violation cleared. The final trap was cruel. A bedroom circuit wired with standard breakers. No AFCI protection. Kevin almost missed it, but Maria caught the detail. Arc fault, she said. Bedrooms need a FCI by code. The foreman's voice was iron. Arc faults cause thousands of fires every year. Code demands a FCI. You forget it. You fail. You fail. Someone's family loses their home. We swapped the standard breaker for an AFCI. When it clicked into place, I felt my shoulders loosen. Harris checked the clock. 50 minutes gone. The foreman closed his clipboard with a snap. Inspection complete. He paced in front of us, boots echoing like thunder. You found the clearance violation? You corrected the oversized breaker? You added GFCI protection? You upsized for continuous load? You installed a FCI today, you passed barely. Kevin sighed in relief. Maria smiled faintly. I felt a strange fire in my chest, not relief but respect. The NEC was no longer just words in a book. It was alive, judging every move, every splice, every breaker. Harris's voice softened, but carried even more weight. Never forget this feeling. Inspections are not obstacles. They are guardians. Inspectors enforce the code and the code protects lives. Respect both, and you will walk this path with honor. The foreman gave us his final warning. Next time, the violations will be harder. And in the real world, the inspector won't guide you. He'll fail you. Remember that. As we left the shop, Maria whispered, I almost enjoyed this. It's like solving a puzzle, except the stakes are real. I nodded. Every breaker, every clearance, every outlet is a question. The NEC holds the answer. That night, I wrote in my notebook, clearance 36 inches minimum. Breaker must match conductor size. GFCI where water lives. Its continuous load times 125%. AFCI in living areas. Inspector is not the enemy. Inspector is the test. Tomorrow would bring the last lesson of this chapter. Harris had called it the weight of compliance. The final measure of whether we truly understood the law that governed every wire we touched. The site was quiet when we arrived, too quiet. Yesterday's mock inspection had left us shaken, each violation carved into memory like scars. Today, Harris stood waiting near the same panel, but this time his expression was different. No clipboard, no checklist, only his eyes, heavy with something more than rules. Compliance, he said slowly, is more than passing an inspection. It is the weight of every life that touches the power you install. His words hung in the air. Maria and Kevin shifted uneasily. I felt a chill despite the morning sun. The foreman stepped forward, boots grinding on the concrete. You've seen violations corrected, but do you know the cost of those who ignored them? His voice dropped lower. I once walked into a burned-out house. Children's toys still melted on the floor. Cause an oversized breaker on a 12-gauge wire. Someone thought they were smarter than the code. That arrogance killed a family. No one spoke. Even Kevin's usual bravado was gone. Harris gestured to the circuits before us. This work is not about pride. It is not about speed. It is about survival. Compliance is not chains. It is the only bridge that carries you safely home. Maria's voice was steady, but soft. So every time we cut corners, we gamble with lives. Harris nodded. Exactly. The house always wins. The foreman barked suddenly. Apprentice, step forward. My feet carried me before I could think. His eyes locked onto mine. If you discovered your own mistake after inspection, what would you do? My chest tightened, but my voice was clear. I would admit it, correct it, no matter the cost. His gaze was sharp, testing. Then he gave the faintest nod. Good. Remember that. A hidden fault is betrayal. Kevin finally spoke, his tone quieter than ever. But what if? What if the boss says to hide it? To finish fast? Harris turned to him with eyes like steel. Then you face a choice. Obey and lose your integrity forever. Or refuse and keep your soul. You can find another job. You cannot find another conscience. Kevin lowered his head. No argument left. The training turned darker. Harris walked us through scenarios, not exercises, but stories pulled from real life. A man skipped bonding a sub-panel correctly. Stray current ran through metal conduit. An apprentice leaned against it and never stood up again. Violation. Neutral and ground bonded in the wrong place. Another wired receptacles near a sink without GFCI. One rainy night, someone reached for a toaster. Gone in seconds. Arc fault left unprotected in a bedroom. The walls caught fire while the family slept. Each story struck like lightning. Every violation had a face, a life behind it. I felt my throat tighten. This wasn't training anymore. It was testimony. The foreman finally broke the silence. You think compliance is about pleasing inspectors? No. Inspectors come and go. Compliance is about facing yourself when you wake up in the morning. When you look in the mirror knowing your work will never kill the people who trust it. Maria's hand tightened on her pliers, and compliance is respect. For the trade. For the people. Harris's voice softened. Yes, and for yourself. He set down his gloves. Almost ceremonial. Every splice, every breaker, every conduit you touch carries your name. Invisible, perhaps, but your name. If it fails, you failed. If it holds, you succeed. Compliance is not about fear. It is about honor. The foreman looked at each of us in turn. There are men who are fast but sloppy. They rise quickly but fall faster. There are men who are slow but compliant. They last. Which will you be? The silence stretched. For the first time, I understood the true weight Harris spoke of. It wasn't the inspector's stamp. It was the invisible responsibility of every life depending on the wires we laid. Harris finally raised his head, his tone shifting. Enough for today. Tomorrow brings a new chapter. Not just panels and breakers, You will meet power that breathes, that moves, that refuses mistakes. The foreman's eyes gleamed. Motors and controls. Machines that turn electricity into motion. Miss a connection there and it won't just fail. Inspection, it will tear itself apart in front of you. Maria drew in a sharp breath. Kevin whispered, almost excited, motors. I felt a surge of both fear and anticipation. Panels had taught us rules. Motors would test our courage. Next episode, the awakening of motors.